Exhausted to the point of fainting, 10-year-old Princess Maria Adelaide of Savoy stood motionless in the middle of the vast hall. She raised her delicate arms as the maids carefully removed her heavy traveling gown and arranged her curls, preparing her for rest. The young princess could feel the gaze of Louis XIV upon her, weighing every movement. She had been taught that one must listen to kings, not speak to them without permission. After nearly a month of weary travel from Turin to Montargis, the endless ceremonies and dusty roads had become a torment. But on that autumn morning of 1696, as she crossed the French border, her fate began. On the square of the little town of Montargis, she was greeted by the king himself. His kind eyes and gentle words, "Welcome to France, little princess," made her fear melt away. Maria Adelaide was born on December 6, 1685, in Turin. She was the first child of Victor Amadeus II of Savoy and Anne-Marie d'Orléans, niece of Louis XIV. From her earliest years, she was trained in all the accomplishments required of a princess: dance, poetry, etiquette, obedience. At the age of 10, under the terms of the Treaty of Turin, she was promised in marriage to the Duke of Burgundy, grandson of the French king. After their first meeting in Montargis, Adelaide moved to Fontainebleau. The young duke, 14 and solemn beyond his years, was shy at first, but the two gradually became friends. Dances, lessons, and walks in the royal gardens brought them closer together. On December 6, 1697, the day she turned 12, their marriage was celebrated in Versailles. The palace shone with thousands of candles, and Adelaide walked proudly beside her husband in a gown of silver brocade, its train stretching 8 meters behind her. For 2 more years, the marriage remained symbolic. During that time, Adelaide changed from a timid girl into a lively, mischievous young woman, the darling of Louis XIV and Madame de Maintenon. Her laughter echoed through the marble halls, and even the aging king, surrounded by intrigue and ceremony, found himself smiling again. In 1699, the young couple began their true married life. The Duke of Burgundy, raised under strict moral discipline, was grave and austere. Yet beside Adelaide, his melancholy melted away. Their union, born of politics, blossomed into genuine affection. In 1704, their first child was born, but soon died. 2 more sons followed, and only the youngest, Louis, survived, destined to become Louis XV of France. When the Grand Dauphin, son of Louis XIV, died in 1711, Adelaide and her husband became Dauphin and Dauphine of France. The king proudly said, "My grandson and his wife will bring France what I could not, peace and virtue." But fate had other plans. In February 1712, the royal household was at Fontainebleau. Winter was damp and cold when Adelaide began to feel unwell. At first it seemed nothing serious: fatigue, a fever. By evening, the fever had worsened. Doctors came and went, debating endlessly, prescribing bloodletting, tonics, and potions. But the illness, later known as smallpox, advanced relentlessly. Louis, the Duke of Burgundy, never left her side. He held her hand as she struggled for breath. The princess who once filled the palace with laughter now lay pale and still, like a porcelain doll. "Don't cry," she whispered. "I'm not afraid." And she smiled. On February 12, 1712, her heart stopped. She was only 26. The king and the court were devastated. Madame de Maintenon would later say, of all the women who surrounded the king, there were only 2 he truly loved, the Queen and Adelaide. 6 days later, Her husband fell ill with the same disease. He had refused to leave her bedside and was infected. The doctors repeated their cruel remedies, and on February 18th, he too died, whispering softly, "I go where she has gone." 3 weeks later, the same illness took their eldest son, the little Duke of Brittany. Only the youngest child, 2-year-old Louis, survived, thanks to the courage of his governess, Charlotte de Ventadour. When the physicians demanded bloodletting once more, she locked herself in the nursery and shouted through the door, "You have killed them all, but this child you shall not have." It was her defiance that saved the boy who would one day become King Louis XV. By the spring of 1712, Versailles was silent. Louis XIV, who had lost his son, grandson, granddaughter-in-law, and great-grandsons, wandered the empty galleries like a shadow. When someone tried to comfort him, he replied, "He who has outlived everyone he loves does not live, he merely waits for death." Thus ended the brief, radiant life of Maria Adelaide of Savoy, the girl who entered Versailles like a beam of light and left it, leaving behind only the echo of laughter and tears.